Hello, everyone across the country. I'm Tim Phillips, President of Americans for Prosperity. Thank you for joining us again for another of our conversations with key leaders as we battle this Biden, Schumer, Pelosi boondoggle that they're trying to foist on the American people that'll have all of these trillions in spending, elements of the Green New Deal, Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All, the PRO Act, which is one of the worst union power grabs I know I've ever seen. So we're battling it at AFP. I'm on the road as always. I'm in Las Vegas today. We're doing a big event tonight. We'll have a couple of hundred or more of our Americans for Prosperity activists out urging Senator Cortez Masto to do the right thing and vote against this in the Senate, along with two of those House Democrats in the Las Vegas suburbs. And then we'll be in Iowa. Congresswoman Cindy Axne, a Democrat from a swing district in Des Moines, she needs to vote no on this. We'll be having a conversation with a lot of folks in our district, and then also Cedar Rapids as well. But at the moment, we have a discussion with a key leader, a new emerging leader in Washington, D.C. To introduce her, Jessie Mallory, our State Director of Colorado Americans for Prosperity. Jessie, go ahead.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we're lucky to be joined today by Congresswoman Lauren Boebert from Colorado's 3rd Congressional District in the Western Slope of Colorado. The Congresswoman was elected in 2020 and serves on National Resources, Budget, and among other committees, is a small business owner. Congresswoman, thank you so much for making time to join us today.
Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be here with you all. And thank you so much for leading on so many issues that matter to the average American citizen and putting pressure on the people who can make a difference.
Absolutely. Great. Jessie, go ahead.
Yeah, and Congresswoman, tell us, before we get things started here, I know a lot's been happening in Washington lately, the reconciliation package, the infrastructure proposals. What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well, I think the most disturbing part about this spending spree is that Democrats don't even pretend to care about paying the bill. We're hearing all this talk about these trillions of dollars that will cost $0, that it's totally free. Right now, there's absolutely a circular firing squad in the Democrat conference right now. And it's very clear that Nancy Pelosi does not have a hold of her conference on these issues. You have the moderates wanting the infrastructure without the budget reconciliation, and you have the progressives wanting the budget reconciliation without the infrastructure. And they're all fighting right now. So Republicans need to stay out of the way, first of all, and not give them any aid in this decision. But it's really frustrating. They pass the debt to the American people and add $2.1 trillion in new taxes and print trillions in new money like it's nothing. This is the largest tax increase in American history.
Yeah, out on the road, the thing I hear over and over from our activists is this inflation and how it's going through the roof. I went by the grocery store over the weekend, paid over $6 a pound for hamburger meat at Walmart, which is out. It's a lot for hamburger meat. I think about the gas prices. I'm in Nevada right now. I roll by a gas station a day. It's almost $5 here in Nevada, and that's really also a tax increase. And it hits people that can afford it the least, right? Or do you get any sense at all that these Democrats are starting to see, hey, wait, we've already spent several trillion this year. All that money chasing fewer and fewer products is driving up inflation. If we put another 4 or 5 trillion in, it's going to impact it worse. Do you have any sense that they understand how inflation is hitting working men and women and folks on the margins?
Well, let's say this, if they do understand what inflation is doing and how it is affecting every family in America, they are absolutely ignoring it because the Democrat agenda has been to spend, spend, spend. Let's make this very simple. When the government spends, you're being taxed. Increasing government spending by $27,000 for every American household is a terrifying thought. And that's what this reconciliation package does. I really wonder how many average American families have an extra $27,000 lying around for Nancy Pelosi to squander. Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure monstrosity only spends $110 billion on roads and bridges, and the rest goes to things like civilian climate corps, electric school buses, salmon recovery, and charging stations for AOC's Tesla, programs to increase the number of female truckers. And I could go on and on. I even tried to remove a $200 million earmark for Nancy Pelosi. She's got an earmark for the Presidio Trust. This is pristine property in San Francisco, a golf course, hotels, and restaurants. And she wants the taxpayer to foot this bill. And the Democrats, when they're challenged on that and say, hey, how about we take out this $200 million and not put the American taxpayer on the hook for that, they say, well, actually, the speaker deserves a little extra in this bill because she works really hard for us. And because she's in leadership, she should have it.
That's true. That's really unfortunate. And I think that's why so many people are really dissatisfied with what's going on in Washington these days. Now, Colorado's Western Slope is an energy-rich sector. And what kind of impact is these proposals are going to have on the energy industry in Colorado?
Everything that they're doing negatively impacts our energy production, not only in Colorado, but all across America. They are making us more reliant on our enemies for our energy production. We used to rely on the American roughneck, and now we're begging OPEC to produce more oil. And it's really unfortunate because I have been in communities where we've seen the amazing progress when these oil and gas companies come in and the wealth that they bring with it, the opportunity that these companies bring when they come into our small communities. For instance, the schools that are built, the roads that are built and maintained, the hospitals, the fire departments, the small businesses that are able to open, hire employees, flourish, and continue to grow. And let's not forget about the moms who are able to stay home and raise their children because dad has a good paying job. But unfortunately, politicians who think they know better get in the way and regulate us into poverty, taking those good paying American jobs away and forcing them overseas. I sit in the Natural Resource Committee and I hear the policies that are being pushed by these extreme, not in my backyard Democrats. And it's really unfortunate because they understand that we need these resources. We need these critical minerals, but they just don't want them produced here in America. So instead, they would rather have 40,000 children mining with their bare hands in the cobalt in the Congo for cobalt, and then send that cobalt to China while we buy solar panels from them. It's an America last agenda, and we need to get back to America energy independence and pursue energy dominance.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I was in Lubbock, Texas 2 weeks ago, right on the northern edge of the Permian Basin. And we had a big event there, 300 or so folks out saying, hey, look, don't destroy American energy, all the good it does for the country, but also the world. And I had a guy who works in that industry, a hardworking young guy, say to me, what they're forgetting is while we've become the #1 energy producer in the world, we've also lowered our nation's CO2 emissions by 23% since 2004. That's an incredible accomplishment. It's a testament to freedom and entrepreneurship. We can become the #1 energy supplier in the world, lower energy costs for American families on their monthly utility bill, provide low-cost energy for manufacturing, all while doing it in a way that protects the environment. And that's such an important point. Okay, we've discussed the energy impact, this Green New Deal, and how radical it is in what Pelosi wants to do. Could we touch a little bit on the Bernie Sanders socialized medicine? I know that a lot of provisions that will expand government care, government health care, socialism basically, on the healthcare front are in this bill. Can you talk about that to folks who are watching a little bit as well and the dangers of that?
Sure. So this is certainly a Bernie Sanders socialist takeover. And, I don't think it's very ironic that his initials are BS because that's what all of his policies amount to. But they want a takeover in every sense of the way. I mean, we can even look at defunding the police. Now, Bernie Sanders is not against police. Democrats are not against police, but they want a national police. It's a complete takeover. They want complete control. They want control in our schools. They want control in our health department, in our health decisions, and they want to spend your money to make sure that they have that control. If you look at the reconciliation package, like I said, there's $27,000 in new taxes per family, and the package is set to increase yearly government spending by 73% every year for the next 10 years, putting our children's future in the toilet. The bill adds $2.1 trillion in new taxes, the highest tax increase ever, and puts $1.2 billion to implement Biden's vaccine mandates. These are health mandates that the American worker is paying for. And so it's when you look at this as a whole, it is a Green New Deal, and it's a bunch of bull crap. And it is a socialist takeover, and our healthcare is absolutely included in that. And not to mention the amnesty for 8 million illegal aliens that this will provide. And it authorizes $100 billion to provide that amnesty, free college for them, and welfare benefits. And it's almost the same amount of funding that goes towards roads and bridges that we're seeing. There's $7.5 billion to boost Ivy League schools, to indoctrinate the next generation of woke elites. So we want to put money back in the American families' pockets. We want them to be successful and prosperous. We want energy independence because we understand that we can produce cleaner energy than anyone in the world. No one does it better than we do right here. And we want our people to be able to make their own health decisions. I believe that this infrastructure and this budget reconciliation especially is far worse than anything that we saw in Obamacare. So we all saw the lies that came from Obamacare. You know, you get to keep your doctor, you get to choose your plan, and we see how false that turned out to be. Even Nancy Pelosi saying, well, we have to pass the bill to see what's in it. Well, now we have a bill that's over 2,000 pages. It's almost twice the size of the Bible. And I guarantee Nancy Pelosi still doesn't know everything that's in it, but this is a complete socialist takeover of our country.
Absolutely. Now, Tim, you've been traveling a lot across the country, and I know you talked a little bit earlier. What are you hearing in other states? Why are people so concerned about this?
We've had over 2 million Americans now. We just crossed that threshold 2 weeks ago, who have actually used our I Volunteer mechanism, which, by the way, folks watching this Facebook effort right now, click on that I Volunteer link. It's right there in the thread. Only take you a couple of minutes. What it does, it lets you make your voice heard. It's a big moment for the country. You heard the representative talking about the dangers and the horrific impact this bill is going to have on freedom, on prosperity, on folks at the margins. I think about senior citizens on fixed incomes. I think about folks struggling every day on hourly wages or making it, because we're a great country. But this makes it so much harder for them to make it when you pile taxes on them, drive up inflation, push in government mandates. And that's what we're talking about. So if you haven't made your voice known, click that I Volunteer link. It'll take you about 2 minutes. That's it. It'll send your voice to your House member and both of your United States senators. And Congresswoman, that's one thing I wanted to bring up. Sometimes I hear from activists, you know, my member, he or she's going to do the right thing. I don't really need to talk to him. But isn't it good to be encouraged to know that folks back home have your back? Or sometimes I hear from activists, well, gosh, my member of Congress is too liberal. They're not going to vote the way I want them to. Isn't it good for them to know that people back home are concerned and worried? Can you talk a little bit about what it means when folks back home are reaching out to their member of Congress?
Absolutely. So I have an office that actually answers the phones, and I even often answer the phones myself. And I will say on both sides of the coin there, it is productive. It's wonderful to have those phone calls of encouragement coming in from people who are supporting you and letting you know that you are doing the right thing. But also, sometimes we get flagged on things that we are perceiving one way, but maybe we haven't looked at it at another angle. And to hear that other side is very, very important. And so we get these phone calls on a regular basis. And I mean, sure, sometimes there's campaigns that it's just spam. and you're never going to make them happy, and you've already made a commitment to the voters of what you're going to do and the direction you're going to go in. But hearing from the people matters so much. Even if you think your representative or your senator is going to do the right thing, you have no idea the conversations that happen on the Hill. You have no idea the conversations that happen right before your member is going to hit that button and vote, and what person is talking in their ear trying to get them to do something else. So if they can hear people back home and what they're saying instead of everybody here in this DC bubble, it absolutely makes a difference.
Yeah, and to your point, it was interesting. Speaker Pelosi was saying back before Labor Day, hey, we're going to get this thing done. We're going to jam this multi-trillion-dollar bill through sometime in maybe at the latest, late September. I really believe that because so many Americans are rising up, making their voices heard to those House members on the Democrat side in those swing districts. I'll be in Dallas, Texas on Monday. Congressman Colin Allred, that's a member in a genuinely center-right, moderate, I think it's actually a conservative district, and he's been voting for all of this Pelosi stuff. I believe that members like him, they know that the folks back home aren't for all of this extreme legislation. So folks watching, take a moment, click that I volunteer link, and make sure you make your voice known. One day when we look back, and I think we're going to win these policy battles, I do, if we stay firm and strong and push, one day you can look back and say, I did my part. At a key moment for the country, I went on social media, I posted, maybe I went to Congressman Boebert's Facebook page and pulled down some key information, or maybe the Americans for Prosperity page. I posted, I took a stand, I called, I emailed my member. Make sure you can say and know with assurance that you did your part. That's what we're asking you to do. Jesse, I'll get back to you. I don't mean to get off on that too long, but it is important. Let's keep those calls and emails going to these members in the House and also in the Senate.
Absolutely. And it's an important step to take. And I know we've covered a lot today, Congresswoman. What are you hopeful for? I know we're facing a lot of challenges, but what inspires you? What gives you hope looking forward?
It's so interesting. I look at the Capitol Dome every day, and just about anywhere in Washington, D.C. you can turn and see that beautiful dome. And it's amazing to have such a feeling of honor and disgust with what's happening here. It certainly at times is frustrating because you just want government to do the right thing for your people. And that doesn't mean growing government, doesn't mean making government more powerful and stronger and more wealthy. It means limiting government and giving freedom back to the people. That's why our government is here, to secure the rights of the people. The people give consent to be governed. And I think we're starting to see that there's some things they're not consenting to anymore. Maybe that's why we're seeing some of these Democrats hesitant to vote on infrastructure and the budget reconciliation, because that pressure is they're feeling that pressure. Because I've seen it all year long that these Democrats, no matter how they feel, they work for Nancy Pelosi. So at the end of the day, they do what she says because they think it's her money and her committee assignments that's going to keep them successful in office. And they forget that it's the people who hired them back home that keep them here and keep them successful. But I do want to encourage people that there is hope. There's absolutely hope. There's so much momentum. I travel all throughout the country and I talk to so many people who believe in this country, who believe in the Constitution, and who knows that there is great things coming. If I didn't have hope, I would not leave my 4 boys every single day to do what I'm doing. I would go home and spend my days with them if I felt that this was completely hopeless and a waste of time. So I'm going to be here giving voice to the millions of Americans back home who are fed up in the direction that we're going and want to turn this thing around and get back to our founding principles, freedom and prosperity and personal choice.
Well said. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert from Colorado. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for fighting the good fight. I know it's a big week. You got to get back to it. So we're going to wrap this up. But for Jesse Mallory, our AFP Colorado State Director, I'm Tim Phillips with Americans for Prosperity. Let's win this one. Let's take these next couple of weeks that are so big for the country, do our part, and win for freedom and prosperity. Thank you all very much.